If I could have everyone come in and take a seat, and I'll quickly introduce and get into the substance. I know Senator Fischer, I think you have a vote that is coming up. So if I could have everyone take a seat, please. This is a panel I've been looking forward to ever since we were able to put it together. Let me real quickly, Sally Doty from my home state, an attorney, was the executive director of the Public Service Commission back home in the state Senate from the beautiful town of Brookhaven, Mississippi, and Kosciuszko. But she has stood up and is running the Mississippi Broadband office, getting ready for a lot of money coming to deploy and connect every Mississippian. Senator Deb Fischer, the first woman senator from the state of Nebraska. I had an opportunity to have dinner with all the Nebraska delegation, and they really like each other, and they have the best sense of humor, and well, most of the time, we do, almost all the time, yeah. But you can tell that they just really enjoy each other, work well together. Now, Mississippi loves Nebraska because of Omaha, and so for the past 2 years, Mississippi is not first in many things, but we're the best college baseball state in the country. And so Mississippi State University won the College World Series in Omaha 2 years ago. Then Ole Miss won it this past year, and Ole Miss set the record for I think that there's Jello or tequila shots in Omaha, and so they set the record for that. But she's a great leader, both on the Commerce Committee in the Senate and on the Ag Committee. And as we go into this session of Congress, the work that both committees will be doing will be critical to the members of INCOMPAS as they try to connect every part of the country and rural America as well as urban. Chairman Thompson, you and I have something in common. My family, we were dairy farmers, and now it's a little bit different than Pennsylvania. We also had a catfish farm.
We fish for catfish.
Yes. Yeah. After my sophomore year in college, I decided I was going to sit out, and my dad sent me to work on our dairy farm for 8 months. And after 8 months of working on the dairy farm, it inspired me to go back to school. But you're in a unique position of leadership to chair the House Ag Committee. I served on that committee for 6 years and have a lot of good memories. And your work, you're also, Penn State grad. There are not too many counselors or therapists in Congress, and if we've ever needed one, it is now. So we're grateful that you've joined us to talk about precision agriculture, closing the digital divide, and the things that we can do to advance those objectives. Sally, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about your work on the State Broadband Office, what you're experiencing at the state level as you prepare for the BEAD funding to come, and then why precision agriculture in a state like Mississippi is so important.
Well, we were one of the last states to stand up a broadband office, so we have been extremely busy. We began July 1 this past year, so just hiring staff, working through getting everybody a computer, that took a while. Working through those obstacles, and then applying for the BEAD planning grant, applying for the digital equity planning grant, meeting all those deadlines, plus some FCC challenges thrown in along the way. So it's been quite a busy time. Now, when I was at the public utilities staff, we did administer some broadband grant funding, so we're not totally novices, but it's been quite a sprint over the past few months. Agriculture, of course, is so important to Mississippi. It is one of our largest industries, about 17-18% of our, of our industry, either direct or indirect. So actually serving on this panel has made me really give a lot of thought to precision agriculture and perhaps how we can leverage this BEAD funding, which really is geared more towards residential, of course, how we can leverage it to help our last acre as well.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know if I've ever heard the term. I know last mile, but the last acre is very good. Uh, Chairman Thompson, I'm going to, and Senator Fisher, forgive me for going to the House first, because we know that the Senate, yes, that that the Senate will take its time and get it done. You know, I was a Senate staffer. So my first love is the Senate. Chairman Thompson, tell us about what you hope to achieve in this Congress. You have the Farm Bill coming, the work that is possible with precision agriculture, the BEAD funding, the Connect America Fund. There's many things that could be very important to broadband deployments and affordability that the Ag Committee has jurisdiction over.
No, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming to Washington. This is not an easy place to navigate or a cheap place to visit. So you went to significant sacrifice to, from your family, from the work that you do, important work that you do to be here. There's an old saying I learned in DC. Now that could either be before children or before Congress. And that when it comes to public policy, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And you all are at the table. And even when you're not here, you've got a great association that has you at the table. But it's so important that you are here, to have that personal contact. In American agriculture, I define by 3 words: science, technology, and innovation. And it has been since the very beginning, since those first settlers came, and a lot of them, even the folks who now live in Nebraska, even probably some in Mississippi, they settled in Pennsylvania first. Whether they looked at the fertile valleys and decided at least they'd stop there for a respite, and even they used those earliest of farmers used science. Now it was crude and rudimentary. It was trial and error. The purposes were pure though. It was to harvest enough food, more food, so fewer family members would die by the following harvest year. Today, our innovation, science, and technology in agriculture is very sophisticated, and it has contributed dramatically to our efficiency, right? American agriculture, the American farmer is, and I use that term broadly. So when I say farmer, I mean farmer, rancher, forester, and quite frankly, processor. They have increased productivity 287% since the 1940s. Now it's slipped under this current inflation to 279%. It happens. Our goal with this farm bill is we provide the tools in place, including precision agriculture, obviously, to take it to 400% since the 1940s by the year 2035. And I think we can do that. It is so exciting to see what these tools in precision agriculture, specifically today, what we can accomplish for increasing nutrition, increasing increasing the economy. My goal for the Farm Bill, one of my visions is to restore a robust rural economy. It is about obviously the number of jobs that are created. Every state represented here, our number one industry is agriculture. Pennsylvania, it's 1 out of every 7 jobs. In fact, I find there's only one state where it's not the number one industry, and it used to be. That's Hawaii. So those tourist dollars are sort of taken over. But they still have robust agriculture in Hawaii that most people don't think about. And so, but it's also with precision agriculture, we can achieve all that plus a cleaner environment and a better climate. Precision, it's the incredible part of American agriculture. It is not static; it's dynamic. And so, the investments that we make in innovation, science, and technology will help us become more efficient. Will continue the role of the American farmer to be the only true climate hero in the world. I've been reading a lot about, I don't know who these people are writing these articles. And all they like to do is to go after, and they've really been, the past couple of days especially, releasing articles criticizing American farmers because we contribute, they say, 11% of greenhouse gases. Well, I don't know. I'm not saying they're not smart. Maybe they have a bad editor because they leave out the part about how American farmers, with the tools today, sequester 10.1% more greenhouse gases than what they admit. That the only true way on this day in 2023, if you want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions around the world, is for the American farmer, rancher, and forester to produce more and export it overseas. And that's because we are science, technology, and innovation and precision agriculture. Such an exciting part of it today, but this farm bill needs to be about also the farmer of tomorrow.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Fischer. You're on both the Commerce Committee and on the Ag Committee in the Senate. As you look at your priorities and what the committee can do to assist in closing the digital divide, overseeing the BEAD funding, and promoting U.S. agriculture and Nebraska's primary sector of its economy, what are your priorities and your thoughts, and what is your advice to our member companies to work with the committees of jurisdiction?
Well, thank you, first of all, for the invitation to be here today. It is always such a pleasure to be able to talk about positive things that are going on in Congress. And the Farm Bill is one of those. In the Senate, I believe we will be able to get our Farm Bill done hopefully by August. That's our goal. We're looking to make sure that it's bipartisan, non-controversial, and that we really address the needs that are out there. Mr. Chairman, it is just such an honor to meet you face to face and be able to sit on the stage here and have a good conversation. And Sally, how wonderful to meet with somebody who's on the ground in looking at how we're going to get broadband deployed. I am on the Commerce and Ag Committee, both of those committees. And so my priorities obviously are precision agriculture and also broadband. Let me start first with broadband. We all know that broadband is vital, and we have to have it for every part of our life. I was very pleased to support the infrastructure bill that was passed in 2021. It will bring about $200 million to the state of Nebraska. We're looking at deploying more broadband, of course, because that's really the lifeblood of this century that we're in now. You know, my background is a lot in infrastructure, roads and bridges, which connect all parts of this country, and broadband does that. And we just need to make sure that no part of this country is left out. And that's why so many of these programs that we have to make sure that, again, they identify the needs and we make sure they go where they need to go. The money goes where it needs to go. The deployment needs to go where it needs to go. And I am a firm believer that it needs to go to the unserved areas in this country. The chairman talked about the importance of farming, of rural America. We cannot lose sight of that as a country. In Nebraska, 1 in 4 jobs are dependent upon ag production. That is the leading part of our economy. When we look at precision agriculture, that's something that I have been focused on for a number of years. I have an absolutely great bill coming your way, I hope. And it's the Precision Ag Loan Act. Hopefully we're going to get that in the Farm Bill on the Senate side. This is geared towards really smaller farmers and ranchers so that they have the resources they need to tap into that new technology, the innovation that we have, the technology that we have, so that they can purchase the equipment or the systems to be able to be more efficient, so they can have less input into their production and make a bigger profit. To be able to monitor the soil, monitor water, monitor fertilizer, to look at how to reduce water on crops, to become even better stewards of the land than they are now. That is so important, not just for that family farm and ranch, but it's important to our society. And in order to do that, the bill would have the USDA be able to make lower interest loans so that these smaller farmers and ranchers can participate in the technology that is currently available, and that's only going to grow in more availability as we look to the future. When you talk about getting people back to agriculture, back to rural America, you have to be connected. You have to be connected. Young people will come and be excited about their jobs if they can participate in the business world in the same way that their cohorts do in major metropolitan areas. So to be able to look at broadband and to look at precision ag, to see all the wonderful opportunities that exist across this country, it's exciting. But that doesn't mean we just sit back and go, isn't this great? Because there's a number of programs out there that we have to have oversight on, that we have to monitor, that we have to be sure that they are being implemented in ways that we voted for those bills to get them passed. Make sure they're getting implemented in those ways. And the BEAD program is one of them. I talk about the last acre as well. We talk about the last mile. Well, that goes to the building. You need the last acre to be able to take advantage with all the innovation that's out there for ag producers in this day and age. And so while it's wonderful to increase speeds in areas that currently have that connectivity, let's make sure we get the road, we get the electricity, all those former major infrastructure projects. Let's do that the same way now with broadband.
Chairman Thompson, as you were talking about science and technology and innovation, when I was first in Congress over 25 years ago, we have the NASA Center on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And they were the lead center for remote imaging or satellite imaging. And Mississippi State University, our almost Penn State equivalent, came to us and said, we have a lot of our farmers who want to be able to use the imaging developed by NASA to be able to map their fields and their farms, and then to maximize their productivity through precision agriculture. And so we worked very closely within Senator Cochran and Senator Lott to make the remote imaging to get it to the farmer. And not only did it go to the farmer, it ended up at a place called Google. And so Google Maps, so as you think agriculture, did it drive the innovation of the last 2.5 decades and give us something that we take for granted today? It all came from NASA, Mississippi, and into the remote imaging and satellite imaging that not only maps our farms, but maps our everyday lives today. So it's just one example of where precision agriculture and the research and the technology and the networks all go to give benefit to Americans everywhere. And I'm really taken by the connection to how greater efficiency also is good for the environment, better for the land management, the soil management, the water management. Sally, as you get ready to give out the grants in Mississippi, and as you look at the Mississippi Delta to the coastal area to the forestry and the timber, which is the largest industry in Mississippi, what do you see are the best benefits of precision agriculture and the broadband networks that kind of go hand in hand?
Well, there are just so many opportunities there. We've been engaged in a lot of meetings around the state. I think I've had 15 in the Delta, several down in Southwest Mississippi, where there just is no connectivity. I mean, there's cell service is spotty at best, and there is no service. So, when I meet with those groups, it is, often when I meet, when we have a meeting, it is, are we going to have it within 6 months? Is it going to be here within the next year? And I have to manage some expectations. But there are just so many opportunities, of course, with all the artificial intelligence also that's coming out. So I think we have a unique opportunity here as we manage this money, and it has to go out just as quickly as possible for these groups that are just so unserved and underserved.
As we look at the funding going out, and this is for everyone on the panel, what many of our member companies that are deploying in rural America and across the country, they're facing roadblocks and barriers to the deployment of the networks, whether that is access to rights of way on our highways, access to the poles, crossing the railroad track, to work with our cities and our localities on their permitting and their fees, on public lands, especially our federal lands. So one area of jurisdiction for the Ag Committee is the Forest Service. But the Forest Service grows trees really well, but they don't give permits very fast. And so how do we try to have, through the Farm Bill, part of the permitting reform that is really, not only for our energy policy and our infrastructure policy, but is really critical to our broadband deployment. And as all this money goes out, if it takes too long to build, it costs too much to build, that eventually hurts the farmer and the consumer and the small business and Main Street and small town and disadvantaged communities. Is there anything that y'all would like to say about how do we streamline wherever we can, whatever jurisdiction we all have an opportunity to oversee, to make sure that not only do we connect every American, but we try to do it as fast as possible?
Yeah, and I think there's some lessons to be learned from, of all places, the forestry title of the Farm Bill. Before I say that though, let me just say, having access to not just rural broadband, but sufficient bandwidth to do all the things that we need to do, as the senator said, to the field, right? Last acre, to the farm gate, to the farmhouse, to the barn. With precision agriculture, you need it all those places. I've had the privilege of, most recently it was it was on a rice farm, but it was a multi-crop, brand New Holland combine, which is pretty sweet actually. And to be able to ride in that where, using GPS, and, the old farmer GPS used to be, they turn around in the tractor seat and look like this. Is that a straight line? And this is just hands off once you put the program in. Rural broadband is of sufficient bandwidth to meet all of our needs: education, healthcare, marketplace, to be able to sell your commodities from your farm, to reach the world. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity, and it's a level playing field with the rest of the country. And it's one of the most things that are most important if we're going to restore a robust rural economy. And so let me put that out there, and then remind me again what your question was. I went down a rabbit hole.
So on the forestry,
the forestry title is where we can learn from the forestry title. With the Forest Service, we've tried to equip them, and they would need more tools. I was just in Paradise, California, where just a few years ago, 95 people burned to death because they couldn't get out. Just improper forest management. Some of the tools that we've given to the Forest Service in the 2014 Farm Bill, 2018 Farm Bill, and we'll be looking again. I think it's a great model. Categorical exclusions when it comes to permitting, because we know these things. It's an expedited form of permitting. You're not really skipping the environmental steps. It's just you're taking the bureaucracy out of it, because we need to get this done. Can you imagine 100 years ago if our predecessors would have done the rural, if they had done the Rural Electrification Act in the silos that we use today for broadband? I'm absolutely convinced I live in a community that would still be in the dark, and so, we need to look at those efficiencies and what the barriers are. And I think we need to hold accountability too. Quite frankly, I want to make sure the BEAD Act doesn't become the BEADless Act. It says equity, but the fact is there was no equity in that what got passed there, because only $2 billion went to USDA. Now, maybe it's just me, but I know USDA knows rural America. I know USDA has a presence in every county in this country, and yet the inequities of the funding distribution alone was wrong. But that said, I also know that we have a responsibility that once something passes, whether we vote for it or not, we have a responsibility for oversight. That's part of checks and balances. And so, the folks that are just now forming and getting their in some type of a form to implement, equity to me means we're doing that last acre, and no, we're not spending a lot of money of redoing middle mile because that's traditionally what we've done. It is disgusting when you think about how many billions of dollars we have put into broadband, and yet we still have these last mile areas. Um, and I know that we also have to use innovation. That's why I was really proud of what the House Agriculture Committee did in July 2 years ago, I think at this point, where we passed a broadband bill that would have bridged the digital divide. It actually would have provided for, there was an innovation component to it because you're not going to do everything by fiber. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got, there'll be new ways, obviously satellites, in just that I think will be largely embraced in just a couple of years. So we need to be open to all different ways. We have a lot of topography we have to traverse in the United States, and it can be a challenge. We put into that, and I was really excited about this with it. And he was chairman at the time, a dear friend of mine. He's a ranking member now, David Scott from Georgia. We worked so closely together. We passed that bill unanimously out of the Agriculture Committee because rural broadband is a unifying topic. We actually within that proposal created a circuit rider program similar to what we do with water projects, right? With rural water, we have a circuit rider because not all rural communities or economic development groups that want to do water projects have the expertise. This circuit rider can move around, do that. We actually modeled something like that for broadband, passed unanimously, and we couldn't get it on the House floor for probably a multitude of reasons, but it was a great bill. So, but that's the kind of work that we're going to do with the Farm Bill as well. And in terms, I love your bill, which you've talked about with precision agriculture. We have something very similar, a little different approach. The Precise Act, Congresswoman Henson from Iowa took the lead on that. It was a part of our climate bills that we did and that we put forward in a portfolio with the expansion, the Precise Act, using some conservation dollars as well to be able to access that because this technology is expensive. And but it is the return on investment with it is significant.
It is.
Senator Fischer, and now she is also the subcommittee chair of the Surface Transportation Committee, on which I was a professional staffer at one time. So all rail policy, highway policy. So where the fiber hits the road and crosses the rail, Senator Fischer can oversee it. Yeah.
I was.
So not now.
Not now. I'm
Okay.
still on the subcommittee,
Okay.
but I added appropriations,
Okay.
armed service appropriations. I had a lot of committees, so didn't get that chair. But I think the main point, and my colleagues here have certainly touched on that and spoken about it. It is important that we maintain oversight.
Mhm.
It is important that we consider legislative intent when we look at all of these programs. As we move ahead with regards to regulations, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, which happens all the time here in Washington. It seems like we have more and more and more regulations and rules, no matter what industry you're in, that makes it more and more and more difficult to get these good programs out to people, to get them in the communities so that they're able to start building out broadband, to look at where it's needed with the mapping, to make sure that it goes to unserved areas, to find out with regard to the other mapping, to find out where we have it now. We don't even know that for sure, where we have broadband deployed now. We need to make sure that that's out there. So I continue to look for any ways in working with private industry to figure out how we can better address governmental agencies when they kind of, I think, get a little too involved in their rulemaking and exceed the bounds of what the legislation really put out there for them to do. So that's something that I follow very, very closely and try to make sure that we are able to do that. My staff is giving me a high sign.
Yes.
We have a vote in the Senate at 11:30. So my apologies that
Well,
I'm
I'm
going
very
to
grateful that
step off.
well, I'm very grateful that you came today. And is something I'm very proud to have House, Senate, and state all represented, key leaders in our nation's effort to connect the last acre, the last mile, the farm, the small town, Main Street. The member companies here are doing the good work of serving those communities and serving the farmers, and we want to support what you do, and anything that we can do to be a good resource, Senator Fisher, for you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. So nice.
And now we'll stay as she goes to vote.
Thank you very much.
So, Sally, what would you communicate to those of us who are working in DC? What do you need to be able to do your job most effectively? Because you're going to be where the fiber hits the road, where the tower, gets deployed, and where any gaps in service hopefully will be filled. And so part of the reason that we wanted to have a panel that had House, Senate, and state is because this is what we're doing right now is different than what we've ever done before. We've had a USF program that was a federal program that subsidized the way our networks are built in hard to reach places. This is going to be now the largest funding of broadband, and it's going to be delegated to the states for the implementation. And that is historic and different. It's more like how we do highways. Chairman Thompson, the Connect America Fund and the success that y'all have had through that program and every year through appropriations, we want to sit down and visit with you and the other Ag Committee leaders. How do we look at, after BEAD funding, what is the right thing to have a new USF, or continue the Connect America Fund, and how do we have the affordability funding possibly considered as part of the Farm Bill effort? And so those are all important issues. But Sally, going back to my question, is there anything else that you need for those of us who work too much in Washington?
I think the urgency of the need is so important. More consistency among programs would be helpful. Of course, BEAD is the largest program, and that's where we will spend the majority of our time and effort. But my office is also administering or about to stand up our CPF competitive grant program. We're administering a BIP, Broadband Infrastructure Program grant, a $32 million grant. That's we say in our office that's been our training for BEAD, because we now are more comfortable with all of the steps, and a lot of our providers that have participated in that are more comfortable with the steps and the federal regulations they have to comply with, procurement, and all of the environmental and state historical preservation issues. It's been a real learning curve for them, many of our smaller providers especially, because they haven't done this before. So more consistency, more urgency would be helpful on the ground.
Chairman Thompson, anything that we can do to work with your committee is you're moving pretty quickly on the Farm Bill. Mm-hmm. Senator Fischer said that y'all hope to get it done by August. What can we do to be helpful? in your process on all of the broadband provisions and sections?
Yeah,
And
this current farm bill expires the end of September. And allowing it to expire is not an option. We'd reverse back to Dust Bowl era regulation that would hurt every American farmer and every American family. And it would miss an opportunity. Now, I feel like a NFL referee, I'll keep an extension flag in my pocket, but I really don't want to throw it because if we ask for an extension, we've missed the opportunity to make needed improvements in a timely manner. We'll throw it if we have to. The only real option is to get this done. I unfortunately I think we're still going down, I think we're still going down the rabbit hole of what we have been. We just heard about 3 different programs. There's just way too much bureaucracy on this. Every time you create a program, you create a bureaucracy you have to feed. And when you feed a bureaucracy, you take away from the people who the program is there to benefit. And that's the American people. I actually think we need, and I've said this from the beginning of my time in service in Congress, we need a coordinated tip of the spear approach to bridging the digital divide. We don't need a BEAD program and an NTIA program. And I'll bet we could sit here for half an hour naming all the different programs that are scattered throughout all of the federal government when it comes to broadband. And that's all, as you folks who make things happen in your communities, that's the time that it takes you to be in compliance and to apply and the replication, the duplication. We lose. We're not really helping America. No, we're getting some stuff done. Don't get me wrong. And I always appreciate, when we're able to have some small victory in a certain area that didn't have connectivity because they need it. They deserve to have it. We should all have it today. But I think helping us not to be satisfied with the old model of, let's create 3 more programs versus could we just do this right? And that's going to get all kinds of resistance in Washington because you're going to gore somebody's ox, somebody who created a program. But if we're all focused on a true belief on who is the person that we should be serving, and that's the American family, and it's not just in connectivity. It's not just an issue in rural areas. There's suburban areas. I could tell you every area I drive in my 1/3 of the state of Pennsylvania I represent, where I'm going to probably not even going to have cell phone coverage, let alone broadband coverage or any type of coverage. And so I think that's one of the things as we approach this in a principle-based way. Is there a way to do this with less bureaucracy? It seems to me we're still approaching this in a siloed approach. We had the BEAD program, we had NTIA, we had the Reconnect, which, by the way, was not an agriculture committee. That was a quote pilot program by ag appropriators who are not supposed to authorize. Although we've worked with our ag appropriators and they were very supportive, that's why they were very supportive of what we put together to take the context of Reconnect and put it into legislative form so it would no longer be a pilot and it'd be comprehensive. That's why the money that we put forward was sufficient, was tens of billions of dollars it is one of those that would have gotten it done for rural America. I still believe that's a better approach. And I think dollars are going to go a further because you don't take the overhead out with every. I doubt if there is a department in Washington that doesn't have a niche for broadband, from the military to agriculture to commerce to education. You think about that. How inefficient is that? And if we just made up for that inefficiency, maybe we will be closer to bridging the digital divide.
I just could not agree more. If I could step in here, because as part of my job, of course, we've stood up a state map. And as we're looking towards standing up our CPF program, we know some Reconnect funds are about to be awarded, but my office doesn't know what those are going to be. And so it's always a moving target. And it just makes things much more difficult. I had a graduate student who was writing a paper contacted me and said, "Oh, can I do an interview with you over he named some astronomical number of money that had gone to Mississippi for broadband funding." And I said, "Well, sure, I'll be glad to talk to you, but could you tell me exactly what all these categories are? Because my numbers don't match that." And of course, there were some programs and different things I was not quite aware of. I tracked them down. So it really is so difficult when there's so many different
It is.
funding streams.
It's
And
no
it-
wonder we haven't
so-
gotten the digital divide.
yeah, we
you
need
know,
some coordination.
Not to say we get, until we get the right thing in place, we got to keep doing this piecemeal. I get it, but
Right.
it is time for leadership
It is.
to do this right and get it done.
Spoken like a true farmer.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is help you plow the straight road.
There you go.
We love to, we would love to work with the committees on a broadband title of the Farm Bill and see if we can have some cohesive, coordinated effort that makes it easier for those who are at the state level and importantly for our member companies who are seeing record levels of private investment go into broadband, record levels of federal funding. This is a unique moment. Many of our member companies, we believe, took a voluntary challenge to keep America connected through COVID, through the pandemic, and they're wanting to serve their communities, the businesses, the farmers, in a way that is good for the entire country. So we want to work with you to try to get it right.
That's much appreciated. Our farmers deserve to have access to the worldwide marketplace, right? They should be able to access the best technology that's out there. And there's amazing precision agriculture advancements that are happening each and every day. When I look at those sprayers that use technology, instead of blanketing, talk about environmental impact, instead of blanketing pesticide in a field, it uses the optics to identify, oh, there's a weed, squirt, and beyond that, our kids, our farm families deserve that they shouldn't have to go to the parking lot of the library to get access to broadband, to be able to get their assignments or to do some research for class. Our seniors and everyone, who can benefit from the efficiency and the effectiveness of telemedicine, something I've led on, they should be able to do that from their dining room table. And the beneficial outcomes of this economically and just from a quality of life are amazing. And the only one that's standing in the way of that may be the U.S. government. Not that we aren't investing, again, probably hundreds of billions of dollars at this point, but the way you do things makes a difference as well.
Well, ag has led the way in so many technological advancements. I was at an event in Mississippi not too long ago with a country music singer who wrote the song, She Thinks My Tractor is Sexy. And most people don't know the autonomous vehicle. The first one was a tractor.
Yeah.
And so it continues to be ag and small towns that bring so many new innovations from the mapping, the remote sensing that all come from our farm community that benefit all of us. And so we're very thankful of what y'all are doing at the state and then in Congress. We look forward to working with you both as you carry out your duties. And then we want to, bring our companies to you to tell their stories of how they're connecting farmers and communities across the country.
And I want to do a shout out to the folks at the local level, the private industry, but quite frankly, our county commissioners who wound up with a windfall, a lot of money, more than what they knew how to spend. But many of those county commissioners identified that rural broadband and connectivity was a number one issue. And so broadband is like any other type of agriculture operation, right? You need good farm hands. And we got a good room full of farm hands when it comes to the Farm Bill and specifically the Rural Economic Development title, which is where broadband is and the needs of rural America. So thank you and the association, quite frankly, everybody here for being at the table.
Well, thank you all. And we appreciate both of you.